Like the opposite. All right. What did we talk about last week? Apologetics, but like what? There's a whole bunch of like. It's like we learned about religion. Huh? Very good. Cosmos, yes. God's existence, yes, yes, yes. Very good. Does he exist? Yes. Yes. How to have a logical debate? Yes. Just let me back up and say, by the way, these things are very, very important as we move forward. It's extremely important that you guys make it every class, because it's going to be like, without learning addition, you're not going to understand multiplication, right? So it's going to build up. Right now, we're kind of just getting our foot wet and building the foundation. Next week, we will begin the introduction to 5 pillars. Next week, okay? So make sure that you guys are really coming and following along. You're going to get lost in the middle, all right? Treat it like a real class. All right, so with that being said, last week we talked about the existence of God, right? And talked about the cosmos and how to have a logical debate and all these things that we talked about. And the conclusion and the reason why we're talking about this is it's important for you guys to articulate why you believe in God. You're going to encounter people from all walks of life. And this may not be a question that is on your mind, or maybe it is, I don't know. But at least you know how to answer it now. We have a reason for why we believe in the things that we believe in, including the existence of God. But today, it's in that realm. It's still within the existence of God, but we're dealing with something called Theodicy, which is the problem of suffering. And I'm going to do 2 things today, okay? The first one we're going to spend a lot of time on. The second thing, a little bit of time, but both are important, equally important. And this is in how to address the problem of suffering. Because there is suffering in the world, people reject the existence of God, okay? And if you tell them, well, the cosmos, or you know, the world is finely tuned, or the moral argument, or the historical argument, and all these things that we brought up last week, they do not care. It just doesn't matter to them. For people who are objecting to God in theodicy, is one and one thing alone: why is there suffering in this world? And most of the time, people that are bringing up these questions bring it up from 2 sources. That's why we're going to divide the class into 2. The first one is purely an intellectual question. They've thought about it. They want an intellectual answer. How is this possible that an all-powerful, all-loving God allows suffering in this world? How is that possible? It's an intellectual question. So because it is an intellectual, and I don't mean it's a smart question or anything like that, it's just using the head, it's not using the brain, or it's not using the heart, right? So because it is an intellectual question coming from the brain, we will give an intellectual answer. However, keep in mind, it can seem cold, some of the answers, like unempathetic, right? But, well, you asked me an intellectual, it's a logical question. I'm just answering it logically. And that's where actually we're going to spend a lot of time today, is on the logical aspect. The second part of the class, which is going to be brief, is on the emotional component. There are people that have been hurt, that have gone through some tragedy, maybe lost somebody in their family, maybe have undergone some type of, or dealt with some type of disease that made them question God. They're dealing with this from an emotional perspective. There is no verse you can give them, no logical argument you could tell them to make them say, oh yeah, you're right. Because they're not coming from it from here. It's an argument from here. Does that make sense? Because it is an emotional question, I'll give an emotional answer. No logic. No logic, just emotions. Emotion deserves emotion. Logic deserves logic. And let this be a lesson for everybody when you are talking, because I guarantee more than what we talked about last week, this week will be the most relevant, because you will deal with someone who has either questioned God's existence from an intellectual perspective or from an emotional perspective. And you guys will be there to reason with them, either logically or emotionally. And this is a way to do it, is if someone is hurting, okay? When someone passed away and someone is crying over their mother who just passed away, that is not the time to bring up the intellectual answers. You understand what I'm saying? The cosmos is finely tuned, like, my mom just died. What do you mean? Like, I don't care. They just wanted, where's my mom? Why would God do this? This is an emotional thing. So you have to know how to answer that in an emotional way, right? And sometimes maybe it's just not the time. Maybe people are just not ready to listen, And then other times where you need to give a logical answer, you give a logical answer. Does that make sense? All right. Spent too much time on the introduction. So let's begin. Before we deal with Theodicy, I want to talk about the characteristics of God. We kind of did this last week, but I want to hone in and concentrate on one aspect that is very much relevant to Theodicy, and that is that God is love. 1 John chapter 4, verse 8. God is love. It's not saying that God loves, it's saying God is love. He himself is love. The Bible doesn't say God gives us love. It says he himself is love. This is what he does. This is who he is. Before the creation of the world, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, in three of the persons, there was love among them. The world, before the world, there was love that existed among the triune head of God. This is why we say it is who he is, it's not what he does. A few years back, a man by the name of Ray Lucas was walking towards his home when he suddenly saw his house on flames. He recognized that two of his twin daughters were inside the house burning. So he ran in there to save them. And he managed to get them out. But in the midst of all this, he ended up getting first, second, and third degree burns all over his body to save his kids. When you hear this story, you're like, oh, wow, he did that. But it's not like shocking, right? Like if I told this story again and I said there's a man, Ray Lucas, he saw his house on flames, recognized that his twin sisters were inside the house burning, so he just watched the house burn. He'd be like, what? Right? You expect the father to go in. Yeah, he's a hero. What? Okay, but that's like what you're expecting from a father. Because that's what a father does. He protects his kids to the point of him risking his own life. It's not that shocking. Because that is the bond, the love between a father and a child. Yet, Ray Lucas probably would not have done this for another neighbor or another person. We don't know. But maybe not. He probably wouldn't have done it for his enemies, right? Even if he does, he wouldn't act in this righteous way every single time he gets a chance. Does that make sense? But for God, he is love. This is who he is. It's not like he's acting. It's not like he's choosing. It's not like he's doing it for his favorites. This is just the way that he is. Therefore, every single time that people like Ray Lucas exhibit this type of thing that is like, big and great and love, we are exhibiting the characteristics of God. You see? In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, everybody remember this verse, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It becomes extremely important in our conversation on the Trinity. Then God said, singular. Then God said, singular. Let us, plural, make human beings in our plural image to be like us, plural. Okay, the Trinity, 1 and 3, 3 and 1. Okay, then God said, singular, let us make human beings in our image to be like us. I'm not going to get into the theology right now. But what I want to focus on is, then God said, let us make human beings in our image. God does not have an image. He's a spirit. God doesn't have an image. He is a spirit. So what does it mean that God created man in his image. It means that God created human beings to act like God. This is what Christian means. When we are saying we are Christians, we're saying we're trying to mimic what Christ did. Be more like Christ-like means just be a Christian. Mimic what he did. Exhibit the characteristics that he had. Now, God is love. We are not love, but we can try to be like God by exhibiting different behaviors. So every time that we are kind, we show mercy, we have forgiveness to other people, we are exhibiting characteristics of God. And yet, it's important to understand when we're talking about love in particular, true love must be chosen freely. This is going to be the back kind of bone of everything else that we're going to be talking about today, okay? Love must be chosen freely. Freedom allows the possibility of rejection of love. My wife always teases me because when my son was born in his early period, she was like, you didn't love him, you didn't care about him. And that's not true. That's not true. What would happen is, like, you know, he was a little man, like he would wake up, poop, sleep, and poop again. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a bond. Like what am I gonna do? I couldn't play with him, you know? Like he would be up for 2.5 minutes just to drink and poop. That's it. Now he's like, yes, you know what I mean? He just gets so excited. He learned how to do high fives, by the way. So I walk out with like high fives. You know? So like I get to play with him. And he gets mad at me. There's times he really does get mad at me. You know, you could tell. And I'm like, So, but when he's smiling, he's choosing to be with me. That's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, right? So real love requires you to be chosen. Like, unless, if that's not the case, then we're just robots. You know what I mean? Like, and for God chose to create this world, and then he wanted us to love him freely. That's how love can exist. If one person is choosing to love the other person, that's the love. If it's not, then it's not true love. All this is going to be like the themes that we're going to be sticking with for the rest of the day. All right. Now let's get into Theodicy. Theodicy is the branch of theology that defends God's goodness and power against objections caused by the existence of evil. This is the main objection that people make. Okay. God cannot, you probably have heard this before, God cannot be both all-powerful and all-loving if evil exists. This is the objection, okay? God cannot be both all-powerful and all-loving if evil exists. Earlier this year, a good friend of mine, his 10-year-old kid was sick. And he took him to the hospital, and they told him he probably has a little cold, take him home. So they took him home. Later that night, he started throwing up, felt very sick. So they called 911, took him to the hospital. Later that evening, he stopped breathing. A few days later, he passed away. 10-year-old child. Our friend was devastated. He did everything he could to save his son. But he couldn't. He couldn't. Him and his wife, they loved their child. They would have done anything to save their child. But they just couldn't. They weren't powerful enough. The strength, the power wasn't there. But they were all loving. They loved their child. There's no question about it. Keep this story in mind, true story, unfortunately, and juxtapose it with what's happening in Ethiopia, in the region of RC, where horrific killings are taking place. Killings of young children, very gruesome way. It's not just like killing is one thing, but there are reports of cutting their body parts and feeding it to them. I mean, just horrific, horrendous things happening simply because they're Christians. These people are armed, they're strong, they have power. not an ounce of love in their heart. You understand? In one case is a couple, a friend, who has all the love in the world, but doesn't have the power to save. In another stance, we have someone who is in place of power, but no love. In both cases, people are dying. Are we together? So the objection says, if God is all-powerful, why would he allow evil to exist in the world? It's like the people in RC. Like, why wouldn't you stop it? That you would, like, if you're all loving and you see somebody suffering, clearly you would want to stop it unless you have no love in your heart. Or are you like the friend who's all loving? Like the Bible says, God is love. Like all loving, fine. But you just can't stop the evil from happening. Do you see? Do you see the contradiction? This is the objection that is made against God. Okay. Like I said, we're going to be dealing with this from two parts. The brain asks, why does this happen? The heart asks, how could this happen? All right? Why did this happen? That's the brain. How could this happen? That's the heart. We're going to start with the brain. All right. So the first part is a bit tricky, but I want everybody to like pay attention and stay with me. I promise we're going to get through it. Okay? But you have to listen to every word. Every word matters. I put these words in order in a very precise way for a reason. And I promise it could sound tricky or whatever, but it's not. Just stay with me. All right? We're good? Okay. First, if God is all powerful, could he create a world without evil? I want you guys to think about this. Yes. All right. Just think about this. If God is all powerful, could he create a world without evil? The answer is yes, but only if he removes free will. All right? Free will means we can choose good or evil. That's what free will means. Remember, we just talked about love. Like you have to be able to choose whether to love or to reject. That choice has to be made. By the way, if everybody in this world chose to do good, evil still exists in the world. I'll give you guys an example. If we all decided to wear white shoes from now on, it doesn't mean that black shoes don't exist. We're just choosing to wear white. That is different than if only white shoes existed and we started wearing white shoes, we're forced to wear it, right? Like the black shoes don't exist. That means we're no longer choosing anything. We're being forced to choose this. That's the same thing. If only good exists in the world, then love does no longer exist. You're being forced to pick that. In order for love to exist, you have to choose love. You have to choose good. And if you're choosing good, there must be something else that you're choosing it from that is evil. Even if nobody does evil, evil still exists. We're just choosing not to do it. Does that make sense? Okay. So a world without evil would take away our ability to choose. That would make us robots, not people who can truly love or do good. Now, I want everybody to understand what I'm saying. It's not that God can't create a world that is free of evil and of free choice, but all I'm saying is the two things are logical contradictions. That's all I'm saying. It's like asking God to create a square that's a circle. Okay? Like if it's a square, by definition, it can't be a circle. If it's a circle, by definition, it can't be a square. But here's where the rebuttal comes. People say, wait a minute. We're talking about like the God. Like the God. For God, he should be able to do the logical impossible. Logical contradictions. He should be able to do the impossible. Right? This is the objection. Okay? And this is where this chart comes in. It's a little tricky, but I promise we're going to get through it. I'm going to do it 2 times. If need be, I'm going to do it a 3rd time. All right? There's 4 steps. 4 steps. Look at it carefully. Yes, it will be on the exam. We're going to look at it carefully, and I promise It's not that bad. You're not going to find this in any textbook, I promise you. First one, this is where we started from. This is the objection that we made. It is logically impossible for an all-loving and all-powerful God to exist with evil in the world. This is where we started from, Theodicy. This is the question, okay? It's logically impossible. It can't happen. All-powerful, all-loving God and with evil just can't happen. It's logically impossible. Okay, step number 2. World without evil and with free will is logically impossible. What you're asking for is just a logically impossible scenario. Does that make sense? Step 3, God is all-powerful. He should be able to do the logically impossible. He should be able to do it. This is the key. Step 4, since God can do the logically impossible, he created a world with evil, even though he is all-powerful and loving. Yeah, we're going to do it one more time. Y'all get it? You get it? There it is. All right, we're going to do it one more time. And if it need be, I'll do it a third time. But no more than we got to keep going. All right, everybody stay with me. Everybody stay with me. The first one is where we started. That is where we started. Every word matters in here. Every word matters. It is logically impossible for an all-loving and powerful God to exist with evil in the world. This is theodicy. This is the problem of suffering. It is impossible for a world to exist with God being all-powerful and all-loving. It's just impossible. Impossible. Okay. Step 2. Uh-oh. Step 2. Step 2. World without evil and with free will is logically impossible. What number 1 is asking us to do is logically impossible. What do you mean? If love exists, free will exists. If free will exists, evil must exist. So what you're asking, what number 1 is demanding, is logically impossible. Then 1 is coming back and saying, wait a minute. We're talking about God, like the God. He should be able to do the logically impossible. He should be able to do logically impossible. Oh, really? God should do the logically impossible? Got it. Then God did the logically impossible. He created a world with evil, even though he is all-powerful and loving. Got that one? Yeah. In short, the second one is what we reviewed. So this is the one, this is the one where it says, okay, so 1 is saying a world can't exist with evil if God is all-powerful and all-loving. That's what 1 is saying. 2 is saying, wait a minute, so what's the alternative? Because we're saying free will exists. We could choose and everything like that. If we're able to choose, evil must exist. It has to exist. It must exist. So what 1 is demanding, what 1 is asking is a logically impossible world. It's a contradiction. A free will can't exist without evil. Like if we have free will, evil must exist. So if they're asking us to create a world where God is all loving without free will or without evil, that in itself is logically impossible. It just cannot exist. Then 1 comes back and says, but God should do the logically impossible. And then we're saying, well, God did the logically impossible. Whatever you're asking us to do, that's what happened. The world that exists, even though you're saying is logically impossible, he's doing it because it's logically, God could do the logically impossible. On cue. All right. Let it, marinate, look at it. By the way, did God create a world without evil while he's all powerful and all loving? Yes. We ruined it, exactly, yeah. We ruined it, yes. We ruined it. All right. That was the hardest part of the class. Okay. Wait. No, later. All right. So now we get it. So first of all, this question doesn't make any sense because if they're saying, in short, if people are saying God should do the logically impossible, then we're saying he did do the logically impossible. The world we live in, God is all powerful, all loving, and yet evil exists. Okay? If they're saying that's impossible, we're saying, well, God did the impossible. That's our answer. right? So I can stop here. Class over. No, okay. All right, so let's keep going. Now let's understand. If we understand this concept, then the real question is, so why would he allow it? Okay, fine. All loving, all powerful could happen. We answer that question, we move on. And now, but we want to understand about this whole evil thing. Why does evil exist? Let's look at it, step by step. Number one, evil is caused by free will. Remember what we said. The fact that we have the ability to choose from good to bad, that means people have a choice to decide bad, and oftentimes they do. People choose to do bad. But that's not God's problem. That is the problem of the world that we live in. That is the consequence of free will. Whenever you give somebody an opportunity to do bad and they choose bad, that is not God doing it. That is just what it means to live in a world with free will. In Netflix, there is a documentary about a young boy named Gabriel Fernandez. In 2013, his mother and her boyfriend called 911 to report that her son was not breathing. So when paramedics arrived, they found Gabriel naked in a bedroom with a cracked skull, 3 broken ribs, and BB pellets lodged in his body. After an 8 months investigation, they found severe beatings resulting in broken bones, shot with a BB gun, sprayed with pepper spray, forced to eat cat feces or vomit, confined in a cabinet while bound and gagged and burned with cigarette butts. His own mother. This is not God. This is not God. This is someone who has no love in their heart, who decided to do evil. And when we are living in a society, in a world where God has given us free will, unfortunately, the circumstance of that means that people will utilize that choice to harm others. But it's not God doing it. It's us doing it to each other. Does that make sense? However, the truth of the matter is the only type of suffering that comes in this world is not by humans. There's natural disasters. There's earthquakes, storms, diseases, different things that come. What about those? You can't blame anybody for an earthquake. There was some in China, some in Japan, all over the world, right? Like there's storms and things happening, people dying everywhere. Who are you going to blame for that? You can't blame people. Clearly, these are natural laws that are designed by God. But it's important to understand that natural laws that cause pain also make life possible. This is just the world that we live in. Gravity allows us to walk and live, but it can also cause injury if we fall. Water gives life, but floods can destroy. Fire brings warmth, but it can also burn. These are the natural processes that keep the world stable, predictable, livable. By the way, as I said, the logical answer is cold, right? Like it's just like very like not empathetic. And I already said that. So don't expect any tears from me, right? Like it's just like, this is the logical answer. If you think about it, this is the logical answer. This is the world that we live in. By the way, do not forget that the fall of man also corrupted this world. In Romans chapter 8, verse 22 says, "For we know that all creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present times. For we know that all creation has been groaning." See, the minute that Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, it wasn't just human nature that was destroyed. This whole world and how it operates started being destroyed. It no longer works in our favor. It sometimes works against us. Revelation chapter 21, verse 4 says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain." This only happens when we are no longer a part of this world. But as long as we are in this world, we have to follow natural laws. They exist. We just have to follow it. Does that make sense? All right. Now that we've seen that suffering exists and it's not God's fault, It is the fall of man. Man does it. And if it's natural laws are just natural laws. We can't do anything about it. The next thing that I want us to look at is that suffering can bring us to God, and it often does. What we think of evil, what we think of suffering, what we think as negative actually has a tendency to bring us closer to God. Let's look at some examples. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. If you talk to him at these particular moments, Joseph would not have anything positive to say about God, I bet. He would be complaining. And yet, God used Joseph's story to save an entire nation. Joseph himself said, "You meant evil against me," when he's talking to his brothers. "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." You see? Yes, bad things happened, but those bad things were used for good. You see? We see it again in the book of Job. He lost his children, wealth, and health, yet he learned how to trust God in times of hardship. At the end of all this, Job says, "My ears had heard of you. They had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." See, back then I had heard about you. A God exists somewhere, but now my eyes have seen you. Pain, hardship brings you closer to God. Same thing in Paul, 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Paul begged God to remove a painful thorn from him. But God said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." And later on, Paul realized his suffering made him humble, more prayerful, and dependent on God. These pains, these sorrows, these sicknesses that we are often complaining about are actually the tools that bring us to God. And again, we see it in Acts chapter 8 when Deacon Stephen was being stoned. Once he was stoned, people were afraid. They scattered throughout the country. That's how Christianity spread. Evil, what we think of evil, God uses in a positive way. What we can conclude from this is that we are limited in our understanding of God. And the problem, especially when we complain about what we think is evil, is because we don't understand the full picture that God is trying to do in our life. What we are interpreting as evil, God is using it as an opportunity to bring us closer to Him. My son now, he's starting to eat solids. And there's certain things he literally will not touch. Eggs is one of them. And it's like the funniest thing in the world. Like, when he touches eggs, he gags. It's like, they're eggs, man. Like, calm down. You know what I mean? And like, as a dad, I can't let that go. Because apparently, but side note, at 1 year old, you can't give them formula anymore. They got to start drinking regular milk and regular food and stuff like this. So I got to prep him for that. And little buddy, I know you hate this stuff, but you got to eat it. You got to eat food. At the moment, he gets mad. I don't get the smiles no more. You know what I mean? I'm not his favorite guy. The minute she walks in, he's all happy all of a sudden again, right? I'm the evil guy. I'll be the evil guy. Because I got to prep him for these moments. You see what I'm saying? But to him, I'm causing him harm. He doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. I don't expect him to understand. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't walk away saying, "Oh, he's so mad at me." Like, no, I got to do what I got to do as a parent. I got to understand him. Does that make sense? If this is the difference between me and my child, imagine the difference between us and God. Like 10,000 times over. And there are certain things that happen in our life that makes us be like, wait, why is this happening? Why would this happen? And all these things, they look evil. They really look bad. They really, really look bad. But God is using it for good. We have to trust that. We do not understand what God has in store for us. We don't. This happens a lot of times in issues like when people are trying to get a job. They apply, they don't get the type of career they want. Why is my life like this? They wonder. But God has something in store for you. You have to trust that. Other times in relationships, maybe you're in a toxic relationship, you keep trying over and over again with the wrong person, and you're just not getting the message. God is saying, that's not for you. You've got to learn when to say, okay, God, maybe you know something I don't understand. I may really like the person, or I really like her, or I really like him, or the way they look, or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, if God is telling you don't do it, don't do it. Trust God. Or if you lose a friendship, there's some people in our lives that they should not be in our life. We're carrying them around, knowing they're taking us away from God. The caliber, the criteria for friendship is, are they bringing me closer to God or not? It's not about how much you're laughing with them. It's not about that, oh, they're always there for me. It's not about I knew them since childhood. It's about, are they bringing me closer to God or not? That's the only criteria. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care if you knew them forever. I don't care if they're family members. If they're the type that are making fun of your religion, if they're the types that's telling you not to go to church, if they're the ones who are constantly poking and making fun, they're not your friends. They're not your friends. There's nothing bigger than God. You've got to understand when certain things happen in your life, it's not that God is doing something to you. He's doing something for you, and it may take a long time for you to understand. True story. I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. When I was born, I had a leg problem. And growing up, I was bullied a lot as a kid, especially in middle school. I hated it. I was so mad. I was the kid who could never get invited to play sports or do something. Like, I was always in the corner. I had a horrible childhood. I was the one kid probably in the world that was excited to move in 8th grade. When my parents told me we were moving, I was the only one, yes, let's go. Like, I had no friends, nothing. It was horrible. When I graduated college, and right before I went to the monastery. For those who don't know, I lived in a monastery for a year and a half. Right before I did that, my legs started hurting again. So long story short, I ended up getting an MRI, and it was shown that I had a lesion on the left side of my brain. And I didn't know, I didn't understand what that meant. Like, what does that mean? And whether you may or may not know, the left side controls speech. And it dawned on me that up until about I was 4 years old, I couldn't talk clearly. And to this day, I have a hard time reading and writing. And if you go back and look at my sermons from back in the day, I couldn't articulate my words clearly. Why would God do this? What's the point of this? And it dawned on me after reflection that God is sending a very clear message. The thing that you're doing right now, getting up and preaching and teaching, it's not because of you. Because those tools that you think you have, the ability to talk and teach and all these things, are messed up. They're not working. The only reason why I'm doing this is because of the glory of God. I can't boast about my sermons. I can't boast about my teachings. People are like, that one down this, that one, doesn't mean anything to me. Because internally, I know it doesn't work. That part is off. You see? So all glory goes to God. You see? So everything that happens, He's prepared. He's preparing me for this very moment right now so I could come and give a testimony about my life. At the time, when I was getting bullied, would never have thought this. At the time, because my whole right body, the left, the left brain controls the right side of the body, and you guys know this, the right is the left. So all my right side is weak. People think I walk with an attitude. I used to get in trouble all the time at church. Like, no, I'm just limping. I swear. Like, it's not. I have nothing against anybody. But at the time, if you ever came to me and said, God has a reason, I would never understand. But it was one of those things. It took a very long time for this to be clear. Now I accept this. This is who I am, and I don't feel bad. I don't apologize. God did this for a reason. Like Paul, He's using me. I believe this. I believe it. We don't know what God has in store for us. There may be something in your life that you're unhappy with or something. Trust me, God has you may not understand today, but there will be a day that you will understand. All right? This is a great transition to the next point. There's 4 things about suffering that we Christians must always remember. 4 truths for all of us to remember as Christians. Number 1, the purpose of life is not happiness, but knowing God. The purpose of life is not happiness, but knowing God. Why do you think you're meant to be comfortable, successful, and happy, and all these things? Who said that? Who promised you these things? The Bible never says this. In the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 9, it says, if you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. This is what the Bible says. The world hates you. Why do you think the world is for you? Why do you think you deserve happiness and joy and all these things? It never says that from the world. You don't get happiness. You get it from God, but not from the world. Ultimately, the goal of Christianity and the goal of what God has promised is eternal transformation, not happiness. And in fact, if we study the Bible carefully, it is in a moment of discomfort that we get closest to God. It is in a moment of discomfort when hardship is around that we get closer to God. Prime example is with David. Right after he committed adultery with Bathsheba, he killed Uriah, and the prophet Nathan rebuked him. I'm going through quickly with the story. I'm assuming most of you guys know it. And then, of course, after this confrontation with Nathan and David, David writes Psalm 51. If you guys haven't prayed Psalm 51, it is a prayer that you guys should know and read carefully. This is one of your assignments, okay? And when you read the prayer, you begin to understand under this perspective that he's praying this in a state of discomfort, right? He's embarrassed. Nathan is coming after him. He's just told him this prophecy that his children will come after him and his kingdom will fall apart. So he's in a disarray. I mean, David is fallen behind. But notice what his words are saying. He's saying, my sin is always before me. Against you only have I sinned. It brought him to repentance. See, discomfort. Like this, being in this weird state is bringing him closer to God. It says, purge me with hyssop. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. This is the prayers. I mean, this is a very famous Psalter. I'm sure most of us know it. This is the time that he begins to really connect with God. It gives you a picture of what it looks like to be with God under distress. A lot of time when you're going through hardship, this is the moment that you pray the most. This is the moment that you get closest to God. These things that we think are evil are really an opportunity to get closer to God. Number one, like I said, is that you're not promised happiness. Instead, our purpose is to know God. Number two, humanity is in a rebellion against God. Humanity is in a rebellion against God. Evil doesn't exist because God failed. It exists because humans turned away from him. Like we said in the beginning of the class, God created a world without evil. It looked perfect. Everybody was happy, but they decided to walk away from God. We are living in that result. Yes, there's forgiveness. Yes, there's the kingdom of heaven, but we're still in that mess. We're living in the mess that man made. Romans chapter 3, verse 23 says, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Number three, the third thing we have to remember, God's plan continues beyond this life. This is perhaps one of the most important things we have to think about when it comes to the problem of suffering. A lot of people define suffering as something that is limited to this world, you know? Like, tell me, if you talk to an atheist, they will say something like, okay, tell me why that young girl had to die. And it's like, why do you think death is the end? Like, it's not. Who said, like, that's like the worst thing that could happen? There's this beautiful story from the Miracles of Mary that I want to read to you guys rather quickly. It's lengthy, but I do want to read it to you because it captures this concept that in our understanding as Orthodox Christians, the story does not end with a person dying, okay? I want us to read it together from the Miracles of Mary. A miracle performed by Our Lady Mary, Holy Virgin Maryam, the Mother of God, Mary, her intercession be with us. Amen. It is said there was a monastery for monks near the sea. It was one brother who has been a monk since his youth. He was a good man. He was a good man. Good man. His faith was upright. His fasting and his prayers were numerous. His ways of life was good. His heart was pure. And he loved Our Lady Mary, Holy Virgin Maryam, the Mother of Light, the Mother of Mercy. He sweetened the remembrance of her name. He revered our compassionate Lady every day, for he was fasting during the day and standing in duty at night. All right? Now, listen to this. Our Lady Mary, the Holy Virgin Maryam, loved him because of his deeds and his good way of life. She wanted to deliver him from the impurities of this world. Just said, this guy's great, like, you know, he prays and stuff like that, whatever. And Mary loved him, and what's her response? She wanted to remove him from the impurities of the world. Next sentence, a severe illness seized him for many days. Next sentence. Like, this guy's a great guy. He's a wonderful guy. He's a great guy. In response, a severe illness seized him for many days. Let's keep reading. What happens? He was unable to go to church, nor to any other place. If the brothers didn't carry him when the time of his death drew near, he asked his brothers to carry him and to take him around in front of the altar so that he might bid from farewell and be blessed by them. The brothers carried the monk and led him around in front of every altar. He bid them farewell and he was blessed by them. After this, they brought him back to his bed, and he praised the brothers. He said to them, "My dear brothers, may God repay you with every goodness for the toils that you performed on my behalf. I assure you that now I see heaven opened up and our Lord sitting at the right hand of power. I also see my Lady Miriam sitting on my right side." After he said this, his soul departed from his body. No healing, no rescue, no saving. The guy's dead, the good guy. All he did was pray. You prayed, now you're dead. Like, oh wow, you're great. Like, your reward, you die. Sounds very cold. There's a made-up story. It's not a true story. In a Sunday school, this Sunday school teacher taught about the gospel and like about the kingdom of heaven and how Christ came to this world to die for us and all these things. And at the end of the class, the teacher began to ask the students, what must you do to enter the kingdom of heaven? And someone said, aha, you must accept our Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ as your Savior. And it was like, very good. Anybody else? It's like, you must participate in the sacraments. Very good. Anybody else? And one little kid raised his hand in the back of the class and said, you must die. You have to die to go to the kingdom of heaven. You have to die. Death is not the end. It is our way to get into the kingdom of heaven. This is, by the way, one of the pillars, the 5 pillars. Mistarat and Sa'imutan. In order to rise up again, you have to die the first time. And death is sad. Sure, we're sad. But this is the reality of this world. This is the intellectual answer. As I said, some of these answers are cold, but if you think about them logically, they're their answer. That's the answer. You ask for a logical question, that's the logical answer. What about the emotional one? What about the answer for people who have suffered because they went through some tragedy and they have questioned about where was God at this moment? For them, we give them an emotional answer. And here's the emotional answer. As some of you guys know, in the beginning of the year, when my wife was giving birth, she was sick, real sick. And the time where it was supposed to be the happiest day of my life became one of the worst days of my life. And I had to see her fighting for her life. It was a cold, cold day. An ICU in a hospital, the doctors running around, the nurses crying, not knowing if she was going to survive. You can't tell me that God did this to teach me a lesson. You can't tell me that. I was so mad, and I'm still angry. I'm still angry. Why would God do this? So when I tell you, I'm not here to judge anybody. See, for so many things, I've been teaching for over 20 years. And when people struggle with the existence of God, I don't get it. Like, what's the problem? When people don't accept Christianity, I don't understand. When people have a question about Orthodox, it's so clear to me. But when it comes to suffering, I used to judge. Like, suffering and you have a problem with God? Now I get it. Because let me tell you, no matter how many biblical verses you know, if this happens to you, you won't understand. It hurts. It still hurts. I served God all my life. I got married in the church. I didn't do a crime. We wanted to have a child. And I had to watch for months while my wife suffered. You tell me this is for a lesson? What lesson is there in that? Okay, fine. I'm not a holy person. She's not a holy person. What did my child do? For 2 months, he was in the hospital with tubes in his lungs. We had to watch him. What lesson is there in that? What is God doing? You tell me. You explain it to me. Give me a biblical verse that makes this go away. There's none. There is none. And this is the same thing, the same feeling that Jeremiah understood. When he saw the nation of Israel being destroyed, he cried, God, what are you doing? Why are you allowing this to happen? This is the same thing that Habakkuk understood. He saw the evil of the world and he just said, God, why would you allow this to happen? Why? And eventually, they understood the same thing I understood. As angry as I am, as mad as as hurt as I am, it's only God that can heal me. I don't know why he did this. I will never know. I will never know, and I will never understand. But what I do know is this pain that I feel, I still feel it. It still hurts. It's only God that will heal me. That's why I came. That's why I continue to serve. It's not because I agree with him. I'm so mad at God. I'm so mad at God. But I also understand that he's the only one that could heal me. If you're mad at God, tell him. Let him know. Be honest with him. If you have something missing, something that's hurting you, let him know. Don't pretend. Don't walk away from it. We're not meant to understand everything. We're not. See, God has a reason why he does what he does. And ultimately, whether we agree with him, whether we disagree with him, he's the only one that can heal us. That's the God I worship. I don't understand him, but I will trust him. What's about Gabriel? Questions? Yeah.
Would you say that waking up every morning is because I'm thinking when you were talking about the story about time in my mind, I thought about how, because this is a thought I have a lot, like, if I'm waking up, that means that, like, my work is not finished, like, kind of perspective is what I have, like, if I'm waking up, that means that it's another chance of God's mercy, and I still haven't fulfilled what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, in a way, yes. And in another way, it could be that if you're going away, one of the answers that's given, although there's no way to verify this, is before you go to fault, God could take you away. So if you're headed in the wrong path, right, God would take you away before you deviate too far. And that's God's way of protecting you.
People even bring up like the example of like, what if Hitler died as a baby?
Yeah, no. But you know, when you read the Gospels, you'll see that Christ, to every situation, he doesn't treat it the same way, like a doctor, right? Like if there's one disease and they know how to take it out, they'll use the same technique over and over again. Christ is not like that. When he sees a blind person, sometimes he's like, you're healed. Sometimes you spit on the floor. Sometimes you take some water. Like, you don't know what he's like, what's next, you know? But he has a reason for why he does what he does for that particular person in that way. But we just don't know. That's the whole thing. We just don't understand. And as much as we want to read and we want to understand, I'm a very logical person, but it's very humbling to know that, you know, there's just certain things we're just not going to know. But we have to be comfortable with that. Yes?
When you
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So is death evil?
It used to be evil, but for us, it's a transitional period, so it's actually a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up. For example, in our culture, we wear black. That's a very Old Testament thing, by the way. Like, we're supposed to celebrate it because it's a transitional period. We don't call it mot, we call it eraft. You know who should cry when people die? The non-believers. They should really be like crying because it really is over for them. No, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Like, it really is over. For us, it's a transitional period to be with Christ. And yeah, we miss the person and stuff like that, but we also have hope that we will see him again. This is why Christianity is like, why wouldn't you be a Christian? I just don't understand. It's like, it makes the perfect sense, right? You get to see the people that you've lost. You have forgiveness. You're not expected to go to the kingdom of heaven only because you've tried to do the right thing. You have mercy. And this horrible thing that we call death is only a transitional period to be with Christ forever. It's like, it makes perfect sense to me, logically.
So we shouldn't be sad when people die?
So
we shouldn't be sad when people die?
We miss them. So it's like this thing, but what gives us hope and tremendous hope is knowing that we're going to see them again. So it's a joy. We celebrate death in Orthodoxy. Yeah. Yes.
Could you say that when people, like, I feel like loss itself is like, it just triggers.
Sure.
So would you say that's like a remnant of our fallen nature?
Yeah, well, of course, because if Adam and Eve didn't do this, we wouldn't be dealing with all these type of things. But through the New Testament and through Christ, we know that this is a way that we enter into the kingdom of heaven. This is our ticket. It's like getting a ride. You just have to go through it. Again, I'm giving you the logical answer. Personally, like, if that happened to me, no, that wouldn't make me feel better. But I'm giving you the logical answer. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do in an instance if nothing works? Like, if you're talking to somebody and you just don't.
This is a great question. The question is, what do you do if nothing works when you're talking to somebody, you're trying to convince them? I learned a long time ago that our job is to plant a seed, somebody else will harvest. So maybe I'm just not meant to convince them, right? There's been a situation where, I talked to somebody and then 10 years later, they're like, oh, after we talked, I read this book and this thing happened and this. So it's like, you just plant a seed, walk away. That's all we're expected to do. We're not supposed to convince anybody of anything. Other questions? The girls have been very quiet today.
All the girls were crying.
Sorry. All right.